Your name is Katrina.
Yeah, it is.
All right. And then what do you write? What's your trope that you write?
Um, I write all sorts of things actually, but this one I'm writing now is a fantasy trilogy, which was a bit of a change for me because I love reading fantasy, but I never thought of myself as a fantasy writer. And then I set out to do a short story one day, and it just didn't want to be a short story, so it became a trilogy. First book is out. It came out in September. And I'm working on getting the second one released on December 4th, so in about a week.
Oh, fun.
And I'm working on the third one now.
I
Yeah.
was just saying I always think, oh, I want to write a book, but then I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. What have some of the challenges been for you as an indie author?
The challenges of being an indie author. Well, I'd say the obvious challenge here is marketing, which I think is a problem for traditional authors as well, because there seems to be such a an attack on reading and less going into that and more going to visual stuff or social media or young people's attention going into that. So I think it's definitely hard for traditional authors to market their books as well, but more so for indie authors, I'd say, because like if you see my book and then you see 100 other books and you're like, why would you choose mine? I know
R-
why you should choose mine, but do you? It's
Exactly.
very hard to
Yeah,
show
yeah,
that to people.
I could only imagine. So do you work full time or do you just write?
I'm a freelance writer. I do online creation, like I don't know, blog stuff. I've worked for some radios, online publications of various sorts. But for the last year, when I realized this was going to be more than just a short story, I said, okay, I'm going to take some time off because I really want to give it my best. And I can't be doing that if I'm working. If I'm writing, I don't know, 4,000 words for someone else a day, I can't really be putting in my best work,
Right.
on my own book. So I said, okay, I'm going to take a step back. And I've been focusing on writing for about a year now.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Um,
Mm.
do you have any kids or anything at home that
No, no, no,
Nope, no
no,
distractions there, huh?
no, no. I look forward to it someday, but already I'm trying to see how I'm going to keep writing when that happens. It's going to be a challenge for sure, but one step at a time.
Yeah, I was gonna say my 11-year-old has already kind of walked by like 4 times. So I can only imagine trying to write a book and she's right there with me. Do you write like young adult or is there more adult scenes in your books?
Um, I don't really. I've never really believed in that separation of young adult versus what a proper adult would like. I don't know. I love some young adult books. I love the Hunger Games books. I don't know if you've seen the last movie, the ones that
I haven't
just
seen the
came out.
newest one. No, I haven't seen that one
You
yet.
should. It's amazing. It's
Okay,
amazing.
I will. I will.
Yeah. And it's like um, the way I see it, it's good books and bad books, or maybe just books that aren't for you as a person, which makes them bad in your personal story, which is fine. Um, and I don't really think in terms of that. I mean, if you ask me what kind of stories I'm writing, I'll say fantasy. But if you ask me what kind of fantasy, I just get lost in all the urban, epic, medieval, whatever name you have for it. I'm like, this is a fantasy book. Do you like other fantasy books? You might like this one. I don't go into specifics. And as for young adults, sure, I think it's the kind of book I would have liked when I was like 16. As for other kids, I don't know. I can't talk for them, can I? There aren't many adult scenes. Like there isn't any graphic sexual stuff, or there is some violence because a lot of the trilogy is war related. It's a lot about violence, but there isn't overly graphic, avert your eyes, kids stuff,
Yeah.
I'd say.
I like to find I'm trying to get my 11-year-old into reading, and I like to find indie authors like yourself that do um publish things that she could read and read
Mm-hmm.
them first and then let her read them. That seems to be helping with getting her
I can imagine that's a good way to connect with her as well, because like you have this bond, you have something to talk about, which is increasingly hard as kids get older.
yeah, there are a lot of books that I read that are not appropriate for her that she's always trying
Yeah.
to pick up, and I'm like, no, we can't do that.
Oh yeah, I imagine, especially since there's already this connection. Like what you read, maybe I'll read it too. So yeah, I can imagine that it gets
Exactly.
tricky.
Um,
Well, in good time.
yeah, no, I mean, she does. She'll pick up the books now. Like if I tell her you can read this one, then she'll read it for a little while. But most of the time it's,
Yeah.
Mom, will you read it to me? And I'm like, you're 11. But, we just kind of,
Well,
um,
what I've noticed with the sort of thing is like if you let them read for like a bit, obviously not if there's graphic stuff on the first page or whatever, but like you give them to read the chapter, it's usually more adult in the sense that it's more serious, more adult life focused, which is kind of boring for kids at that age, and they're like, I don't want to read anymore anyway, and
yeah,
you've satiated their desire to read it, but not into graphic stuff, so it's good.
yeah, exactly. Um, what are some of the rewards you have for just being an indie author?
Well, I just think it's amazing to be able to, like, I know it sounds corny, but I have moments when I just go, this is so incredibly cool to be able to do this. And I take a step back and I look at what I'm doing and at being able to just make this time for myself and do what I love. Because obviously being at this early stage in the process, there isn't much, I don't know, financial reward in the process. There isn't, you're not famous, you're not rich or whatever. But the way I see it, you've only got a really brief time on this earth. And I'd like to know that I'm doing what I love to be doing. I know I'm really lucky to have figured out one of the major passions that are going to be in my life, which is writing. And for me, just being able to do that and to hopefully get other people to read what I'm writing and get, I don't know, them to appreciate it if possible, that's an immense reward already. And I don't really believe it when authors say, oh, I don't care about the fame or the money or whatever. Obviously, you care to an extent because everyone needs to live. Everyone wants validation for their work. But yeah, just whenever I get down or get depressed, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? This is never going to work. Whenever I'm there, I just think, yeah, but think of all the people my age who haven't figured out what they want to do in this life or who are doing something they totally hate or working, I don't know, customer service with no idea what they want to do with the rest of their life. And they feel so low. It's like, you should be happy because you figured this thing out.
Right, exactly.
That's why I see it.
So what inspired you to become an author and to write?
I've always been writing, to be fair. Like, when I was a kid, when I was about your daughter's age, I was really into medieval kings, dynasties, stuff like that. I love that. I learned all the English kings by rote. I knew them. I lived in that world for a while, and that's why I started. I started writing sort of fan fiction about historical figures, and when I was 12 or something like that, and it just spiraled on from there, I guess. I also had a bit of a liberal education, in the sense that I homeschooled throughout high school, so I was able to focus more on what I specifically wanted to do, which was writing. So I took a lot of courses online, offline, did a lot of more experimentation in that area. So just one thing led to another. It's just for me it was like I love to write, but for a long time I was very slow. I don't know, I maybe if I wrote two short stories a year, it was a good year. Um But then I got into this free writing thing where they gave you a prompt and you wrote for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes each day, and whatever came out, you had to send it over, you know? And it was short stuff. It was, I don't know, 300 words, 400 words, very short stuff. And I put that in, and like slowly, I don't like rules very much, so I started breaking the time rule as I went. It was just 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm gonna write however long I want to write. And yeah, and actually I put out a short collection of those short stories when I was 18. Which is called Grimmest Things, which is my handle on Instagram because I love the phrase.
Yeah.
And that was that. Yeah, I just spiraled from there, you know. For a while those were enough, but after a while it was like right now where I am now, I'd love to be able to write a short 300 word story, but I just can't. I just ramble on too much, like I'm doing now.
That's okay. Did you go to college at all? Like to get a degree in English or anything?
No, I haven't. I haven't gone.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
No, I didn't. In Romania, that's not really a thing. Like in America or in the UK, you have a lot of creative writing stuff in college. Here, you only have literature in the sense that you could study either a foreign language or the Romanian language, but not really in a way that's creative. You know, it's more like study what people have already written. So it's not very encouraging in that sense. So no, I actually when I started freelancing when I was about 19, and that took up a lot of my time and a lot of my work, and it was cool, it was interesting. Then I got traveling for a bit around Europe, and then I started writing this trilogy. So there hasn't been a moment for college yet, but it's not totally out of question in the
Yeah.
future. Do I think I'd like to go something more theater related if I do go?
Yeah. That's understandable. What is
Yeah.
your favorite publishing process?
Publishing process. In what way? What kind of process do you mean?
Like when you are getting ready to publish the book and
Mm.
get it out to the world, what is your favorite part of that?
Oh, oh, okay, I see. Well, it's hard to say because I love them all. Each moment of the process has its own little reward. But right now, I'd have to say it's, you know how you're writing a book, and when you finish the first draft, the first manuscript, you put it away for a while. Now that depends on the author, on the moment, whatever. You just put it away for a bit until you forget it. I don't know who described it like that. I think it was Stephen King or someone who said, you know, put it away until you can read it with fresh eyes, like you've never read this, like you didn't write this, you know? And I like that. And so you put that away for a while. And I really love that moment when you start reading through your draft and you start getting ideas. This happens to me a lot. I'll start getting ideas. I'm reading a paragraph and I'm like, oh, you know what phrase would be cool here or how this scene should go.
Do you do your own editing or do you send it off?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do all the I do as much of the process myself. I do the cover art myself. I do the formatting myself, the proofreading. Well, the thing is, I worked as a freelancer, as an editor, as a proofreader. So I already have the skills. You know, if I could do this for other people, I could definitely do it for myself. So yeah, I I'd like to work with a professional if I don't have the time or like feel like it would be better spent elsewhere, my energy. But for now, I'm content with working with myself in that sense.
Saves you money too
Yeah,
if you're doing it yourself.
yeah. Obviously, there's a financial component to it. Let's not pretend. Obviously, you
Yeah.
know.
Um, so when you put your first draft back and you like set it back, how long do you typically wait before you bring it back out and start reading it again?
Well, it used to be longer. It used to be like 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. Which right now to me seems like an incredibly long time. Because this whole trilogy has been a bit rapid fire for me, and I find that even between books, I'm still mentally there. So I just want to get to it. I've set it aside. I like force myself to wait for a while until I'm not so hot-headed anymore. But then I can't wait as much. So now about a month, something like that.
Oh, nice. And you just pick it up and start reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just go through it. I try not to have any set goals that first read around. So I can just digest it, see how it flows as a story, because that's what I'm tracking first. I'm tracking the flow of the story in comparison with the other books. Then I go in on the more minute stuff. Like, I think this particular character should have a different dynamic. I don't think it fits with his particular arch, but that's for a second reading or a third reading or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's for like
And like
finding
a
steps.
lot of reading. Yeah. And like the first reading is also for the more obvious mistakes, because obviously there's going to be grammatical errors and stuff like that. So I just pick those apart, but I try not to focus too much, because if you're reading as a proofreader, it really takes away from the story itself. You can't focus on the story and on there should be a comma here and this is misspelled and this, you can't do both.
Yeah,
So I try to keep them separate. Yeah.
I like that. What is your least favorite part of doing the publishing, getting it out there, or do you not have one?
No, I do. I think every author has one. And I think it depends when you're asking, because if you'd asked me this morning while I was writing, I would have said writing for sure. And if you ask me in the afternoon when I work on more like marketing stuff, it would be marketing. So right now it is afternoon, so it's going to be marketing. But I do believe that's a time sensitive issue. No, definitely marketing, because it's difficult to I find it difficult. I'm not a very social person. More like I like to be on my own, do my stuff in my room.
Yeah,
And yeah, and I find that a bit difficult to connect with new people online, to do this sort of thing. Actually, that's it's a challenge for me, because it comes easier being in front of the keyboard and just going tap tap tap, but reaching out or like interacting or building relationships on social media, that's a bit trickier for me. So I'd say that's the least favorite right now. But it has its rewards. It's amazing too, because I've met a lot of cool people and a lot of cool writers just by putting myself out of my comfort zone and being like, okay, let's see who else is out there.
yeah, yeah. Let's see what else I can find. Because I do a lot of things with indie authors, and so they'll say like the characters are speaking to me. Is that something that they just kind of talk to you while you're writing?
The characters themselves, as in a little voice inside my head, they don't do that, but they do take their own control. I've noticed, like, it's not so much like a dialogue in my head with a certain character, but it's like a different personality that has temporarily taken hold in my head. And right now the trilogy is like multiple point of views, so it's like it starts with 8 characters and now we're down at 6 in the last book. So it's quite a few personalities all at the same time, and it's like following along the natural path of that personality, like you would your own personality. It's like you're writing the story and then somebody tugs your sleeve and goes, I wouldn't do that. That makes no sense. Isn't in keep with what I am. It's like, maybe you do that, maybe you think that's the better story, but that's not what I do, the character. So do this.
Yeah. Huh.
And actually, it happened to me the other day. I'm writing on the ending of the trilogy right now, the last book, and I was writing, I don't know, penultimate chapter or something like that, and I just sat there for a while. I was like, holy, something happened. This wasn't how this chapter was supposed to go. And for a while, I just sat back. I was like, me, the author, didn't know what to do next. I was like, okay, how do we move on from this? Because I followed the character, but then the character sort of goes way back inside your mind, and it's like, I don't know, you handle it from here. I just said my bit, and you have to make sense of what I just did. So it's
Now
it's
you fix it.
challenging. Yeah, exactly, because you have to like tie it back into the story, especially when you have multiple characters like in this one, and it has to be okay, this guy's done this, but how does that impact the other characters? Because like their entire stories are planned based on this guy doing A, but he does B, so
Yeah.
how do we all go from here, you know? So it's
So
challenging, yeah, it's fun.
when
Go ahead.
you when you do that, do you sometimes take whatever chapter it is you're working on and maybe move it to like closer to the beginning of the book and be like, well, he did this, so now everything else has to change?
I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. In the sense that I've arranged certain things like that, but generally I try to like to keep an open mind, and it's like, what if so and so character does this at this point in the book? How does that change my story? See, because like I don't want to make it too easy for myself and like rewrite and erase whatever happened for the other characters, because sometimes I'll really like someone else's storyline and be like, okay, I'm gonna let you character one change the story, but not that much. You don't get to do that, you know. So it's like keeping them on a leash, as it were. But yeah, I definitely rearranged some stuff, but that comes more in the editing process, I'd say. When I'm really going through it right now, just writing is the way I always put it, it's I'm writing whatever comes. I'm just getting the manuscript done, and in a month, when I have to reread it, and make sure it makes sense, that's future me problem. It's not my problem, you know. It's
It's yeah, it's
somewhere
future problem.
2024 problem. I'm not gonna worry about this, you know.
Yeah,
Because if I
okay.
start worrying about it as a writer, I think I just get stuck in my head. And I think that's what happens for a lot of writers who struggle with putting a book out. They're like, I'm still writing and I'm still writing. And I think they start analyzing in their heads and editing in their heads as they go. And it's like, does this make sense? I can't, I don't know. They don't let themselves create anymore. You know, it has to flow, and you'll see what comes, you know.
Yeah.
Take it one step at a time, because you can't do all the steps at the same time. It doesn't work.
Um, do you have like a routine that you do when you're writing, or is there like, do you listen to music? Do you have to shut yourself out from all
Yeah,
noise?
I do. I used to be one of those people who can listen to music like really loud when they write, but now I don't know, I guess I'm getting older and I can't focus anymore. Now if I'm listening, I will sometimes listen to music, especially because there's some songs I love that really fit one of the characters. And when I'm writing their chapter, I'll put that one song on repeat, because I find that doesn't distract me as much if it's the same song over and over and over. If it was a playlist, even from the same guy or the same genre or whatever, it would be too distracting. My mind would keep jumping to it and be like, "Oh, this is this song now. I love this song. Oh, let's sing along to this," you know. So
Yeah.
it takes me away. As far as routine, yeah, I do. I like to light scented candles while I write. Actually, it's very. I noticed this actually. It wasn't meant as a cutesy thing at all, but I noticed I kept picking up my phone or like checking something online, and it was like I kept being distracted while I was writing, and obviously that wasn't very good writing. So I said, okay, you know what we're gonna do? We um we light this candle, and as long as it burns, it's gonna burn for a limited time, and that's when we write. You know, this is while this is burning, you're writing. There is no phone, there is no check things online. You just focus on this, and when we blow this out, you can go to your phone. You know, it's worked for me. I don't know, it
Kind of
works
like a
quite
job,
well.
like you put your phone away while you're working so you're not
Yeah,
distracted.
yeah, exactly, and it also acts like a timer for a bit, because like I know it's not going to burn forever. So for me, it's like, okay, that's going to end eventually. I'm going to blow it out eventually. And that's when it's done, you know? Because otherwise, if I just sit down and put my phone away, it's so within reach. I can just go, okay, I'll just check this one message. How much can that change? I'm still at my desk. I'm still writing, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting wall for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the morning is not the best time to get in touch with you.
No, it's not. And in the morning means something very, I'm not, I'm a night person very much. And so I'll sleep until noon sometimes. So in the morning is whenever I wake up. I'm not a morning person at all, but I have a routine and structure. I'm organized, but not classically organized, as it were. I don't wake up at 7, have coffee, sit down from 8 to 10 or stuff like that. It's like I'll have my coffee, I'll read, and then I'll sit down and write, and however long that takes, that's what happens. But usually around 3 in the afternoon, it
Oh,
ends.
okay. And
Yeah,
then, so what is the name? Last question. What is the name of your trilogy?
the trilogy is called the Warhound trilogy. I says hello.
I like
Yeah,
it.
and it's the name of. Thank you, thank you. I'm quite happy with them myself. Hello,
Yes. I still am amazed that you did all that. That you
thank
did the
you,
book cover and everything.
thank you. It was I like learning this stuff. I'm always into that. I always like learning how to set up a blog, or how to use a blog, or how to create interesting visual content. So for me, it's not a chore. It's not like, oh, I have to do the cover, and oh, I have to do the editing. It's like, okay, I'm learning to do something new. And if you apply that sort of thinking to what you're doing, it actually becomes a very enriching experience
Yeah.
as an artist. So I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
I do. I like it a lot. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you very
joining me
much. Yeah,
today, and
it's
thank you
fun.
for telling me all about your trilogy. I'm actually gonna go get it and start it before the
I
second
hope
book
you like
comes
it.
out because I'm excited about
I
that.
hope you like it.
Um,
Cool. Thank you. I love talking to you. It was fun.
Yay, thank you. Maybe we
Cool.
could do it again when book
Sure.
2 and 3 come out. That would be fun.
Sure.
And
I'd
we
love
can
to.
go over it.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again, and I will talk to you later. Have a good night.
Yeah. Yeah. You too. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.